An attack on one is an attack on both. Pakistan and Saudi have formalized their joint defense relationship, securing Saudi investment for Pakistan's economy and full military support for Saudi's armed forces. Described by some as a game changer, who should feel threatened and who should feel safe? I'm Andrea Sankin. Today's newsmaker is the Saudi-Pakistan Defense Pact. Last week in Riyadh, the leaders of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan signed the Strategic Mutual Defense Agreement. Coming just 1 week after Israeli missiles hit the Qatari capital, many asked if the timing was just coincidental or meant to send a clear message to Israel and the United States. After all, Pakistan is one of only 9 nuclear-armed powers now promising to protect the biggest country in the Middle East. As for Islamabad, the deal helps guarantee crucial Saudi economic investment. But what does that say to India and even Iran? Here's a look.
A landmark defense pact between Saudi Arabia and nuclear-armed Pakistan. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif signed the deal in Riyadh. It declared any aggression against one shall be considered an aggression against both. But details on how it might be enacted are scarce. And there is also ambiguity about whether this will put Saudi Arabia under Pakistan's nuclear umbrella. Pakistan's defense minister suggested that nuclear deterrence will be made available to the Saudis, but then he backtracked, saying nuclear protection is not on the radar and ruled out selling such weapons to Riyadh. Both countries say the deal was in the making for years, yet still its timing was significant. It came just a week after the Israeli strike on the Hamas negotiating team in Qatar, which put Gulf nations on alert to deter any further attacks. Washington's lack of a concrete response has shaken its status as the main security provider to the region. And then there is uncertainty over Iran, Saudi Arabia's long-standing rival, and its nuclear program. Now all of these have prompted the Saudis to look beyond its traditional ally for protection, while at the same time the Gulf kingdom's cheap loans are helping Pakistan's strained economy. Some in India, though, Pakistan's arch-rival, have interpreted the defense pact as a threat to the country's security, given the two nuclear-armed neighbours fought a brief conflict in May. While others say it will not fundamentally change Riyadh's relationship with New Delhi, as the two sides enjoy strong economic ties. And India's foreign ministry was cautious in its response.
We will study the implications of this development for our national security as well as for regional and global stability. The government remains committed to protecting India's national interests and ensuring comprehensive national security in all domains.
Pakistan has long had troops in Saudi Arabia, about 1,500 today, and the Saudi economic support is also nothing new. But both sides say the defense pact formalizes their transactional relationship, and that has the potential to reshuffle regional dynamics and alliances from the US to Asia.
So just how profound are the impacts of this latest agreement in Saudi-Pakistani defense cooperation? Joining me now to debate that and more are, from Riyadh, Saudi journalist and former editor-in-chief of the Saudi Gazette, Khalid Al-Maina. Also from Saudi, member of Pakistan's Provincial Assembly of the Punjab, Usma Kardar. And from London, visiting professor of war studies at King's College London and former UK diplomat in Pakistan, Tim Willesee-Wilsey. Thanks all so much for being with me. So even if this agreement is never enacted, there's really so much still to read into it. So Tim, it didn't come out of nowhere. Really, this has been decades in the making, but still, the timing of this announcement says a lot. What are you taking from that?
Yes, I think the timing is really driven by two things. I mean, we had the Israeli attack on Hamas in Qatar, which gave everyone the opportunity to break out into the open what had hitherto been a covert deal between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. But the second item, which I think is equally important actually, is what happened on the 10th of May in the India-Pakistan clash. India really quite dramatically escalated that clash with attacks on 11 Pakistani Air Force bases. So Pakistan has suddenly and in a hurry got to recalibrate all its defense preparations. And for Pakistan, it's actually extremely useful to break out into the open this relationship with Saudi Arabia, because that's going to make India think twice, maybe three times or more, before launching an attack of similar scale on Pakistan. So I think for both countries, actually, the timing was quite useful.
It's interesting, though, Tim, because, many an analyst has said that the India-Saudi relationship is not going to be detrimentally affected, or at least shouldn't be detrimentally affected. But if this really is the aim of especially Pakistan in this equation here, then the India-Saudi relationship is inevitably going to be affected, is it not?
I think the Saudis are going to be very careful not to let it affect the India relationship. The India relationship is extremely good. India is a emerging superpower, and Saudi Arabia is not going to want to alienate India. So the Pakistanis would be wise not to place too much reliance on this pact, but it does give a degree of deterrence. I don't think the Saudis are going to send jets or troops to Pakistan to assist them. That's just simply not going to happen. But if you're India and you launch this very big attack that they launched on the 10th of May, I think it just makes them think twice and three times before doing something similar again. And that just buys Pakistan some time to work out how it's going to restructure its defense preparations.
Okay, Uzma, do you think that's true? And is really deterrence what Pakistan wanted out of announcing this latest agreement?
Thank you very much for inviting me, Andrea. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. I think the analysis which your guest just gave was a bit subdued because I feel that India suffered a humiliating defeat after this so-called false flag operation that they conducted Pahalgam. And they were bragging all over the world that they are superior as far as their military prowess is concerned. But Pakistan, gave them a lesson that their generations will remember. And the whole world acknowledged the military and strategic superiority of Pakistan's defense mechanisms as compared to India. So now they are extremely frustrated. And so I don't think that this pact between will go unnoticed by India, but the whole world acknowledges the superiority of Pakistan as compared to India, where military strategy is concerned. So I think this is something which will make a difference in the future, because now Pakistan has come up as a regional power, and everybody acknowledges that. It is not just Saudi Arabia. In the last 1 month, you have seen that our Prime Minister and our Field Marshal have met 4 major leaders of the world, including Donald Trump, Putin, the King Salman, and of course the Chinese president. So that says a lot when it comes to the positioning of Pakistan as a key player in the world.
Understandable analysis from Pakistan's perspective, Usma. But let me ask you beyond that, because the question really, I should say so many of the questions surround Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. And as far as that's concerned, because authorities are being intentionally vague on that front. So yes or no, is Pakistan ready to employ nuclear weapons on Saudi's behalf, especially if it comes down to any sort of conflict with Iran? And is the public on board with this?
And Pakistan is a very responsible country. And we are a nuclear power, but we do not flaunt our nuclear capability. We know that this is just for deterrence. And we are very, very careful and responsible, and we follow all our international commitments and obligations as far as nuclear treaties are concerned. So Pakistan will never ever play any card which will deem it as irresponsible. In fact, India is playing this game in a very, very dirty manner, and they should, I think, be brought under scrutiny by the world powers and the authorities that be, because they give statements which are highly, highly irresponsible. We believe we are a nuclear power because we want peace in the world. And it is just for deterrence that we are a nuclear entity.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get Khalid into the conversation. So from Pakistan's perspective there, it's for deterrence. Many others argue, and Pakistan agrees to an extent, that it's also for economic benefit as well, as Saudi is a major investor in Pakistan. But Khalid, what does this all say about Saudi's role here, especially when it comes to India, as well as Saudi relations with the United States? Is it now clear that Washington is not a trusted partner?
Well, it has been clear all the while. I mean, what has been happening, if you read the Washington relations with the Southeast Asian countries right from Vietnam, Washington is not a friend that you can totally rely on, especially in the last 3 years in the Gaza genocide, the vetoes against ceasefire, stopping of the war, giving military aid and all, and then the attack on Qatar, where they have a big base only about 30 miles away. So that's one. Regarding India, I don't think so it will affect their relations, because the Saudi-Indian relations are based mainly on commerce and industry. That's the other thing. And one point was made by the lady from Pakistan was when the question was asked about the nuclear umbrella or the usage of nuclear weapon. I think the Pakistanis will not take sides, and at the same time, there is no such organic issue with Iran. I mean, the Iranians over the past 2 years have been having good relations, or at least friendly relations, with Saudi Arabia. The Crown Prince sent high-powered delegations. So I don't think so it will come to the extent that we might ask a country like Pakistan or anybody else to use their nuclear facilities.
Very interesting. Tim, I'll come back to you, because having heard both analyses, now it's Saudi doesn't want to anger India, obviously, while Pakistan doesn't want to anger Iran. But those two parties are both parties here, they're biggest adversaries. So does it mean any deterrence could be really taken seriously if there's almost an admission that neither would truly go to bat for the other's defense if the worst case scenario were to develop?
No, I think that's a very good question, because I think that sort of brings out the fact that, neither side should place too much reliance on this. And I don't think anyone really will, actually. I think it helps Pakistan more than it helps Saudi Arabia. I mean, who does Saudi Arabia really rely on to keep the Iranian nuclear program in check? Not the Pakistanis. It really relies on the United States and, to an extent, of course, Israel. Now, of course, Saudi Arabia, quite rightly, is worried about Israel's increasingly erratic behavior. Obviously, the bombing of Qatar is one thing, but I think probably more importantly is the sort of threats that the West Bank is increasingly going to be, Judea and what the Israelis call Judea and Samaria are going to be integrated into the wider Israel. I think that worries the Saudis a lot. But when you actually come down to it, are the Pakistanis going to use their nuclear weapons against Iran? I would say no. Are the Saudis going to use their forces against India? I would say no. And are Pakistan going to use their nuclear weapons against Israel? I would say no. So it all adds up really to just a slither of not very dependable deterrence.
Very interesting. So let me ask Usman then, what would Pakistan, under this agreement, genuinely expect Saudi to do if India were to attack Pakistan?
Well, India has done many misadventures in the past, and Pakistan has given a very befitting reply. Pakistan has the fifth largest standing army in the world, and we have proven our superiority, especially our air superiority, and what we did to the Rafales. Even the Rafael company was absolutely, they were put to shame by India, what they did with their technology. I think Saudi Arabia, the pact that we have made with Saudi Arabia, this is a strategic pact in which any aggression against either country means that it is aggression against both countries. And this is according to the NATO Article 53. It mirrors that. So it is a mutual pact. And I think that India should think twice before trying to attack Pakistan, because number one, they've already suffered a crushing, humiliating defeat. And number two, Pakistan is not somebody, Saudi Arabia will, of course, it's not going stay mum and say nothing.
Okay.
Of course, they're going to support us because we are a peaceful nation. We do not believe in aggression. We only believe in defending our border.
Understood.
And
but
we retaliate. When India attacks us.
Tell me if the defense expectations are that limited then for Saudi to come to Pakistan's defense, what does Pakistan really get out of this? And I mean, as far as economic benefits especially are concerned.
The strategic mutual defense agreement, that has initiated a joint task force. It will have coordinated military action. It will also include intelligence sharing. There will be joint procurement of advanced weapons, and that is also something which is going to be shared. If you remember, I would like to recall that this pact did not happen overnight. It is very, very deep rooted, and it spans 7 decades.
Right,
Now,
we explained that in the.
Saudi Arabia was one of the first countries that acknowledged and accepted the existence of Pakistan, and then we also signed a treaty of friendship with Saudi Arabia in 1951, and this
right. We actually explained a lot of that in the introduction.
1967 onwards.
Okay, Uzma, we seem to also be having some audio issues with your line. Let me see if I can get that corrected. And in the meantime, Khalid, let me ask you on the other side, of course, of the agreement, the same question. Can Saudi truly count on Pakistan if proper retaliation is required when called on to back, the Saudi example, when Saudi had asked for Pakistan support against the Houthis in Yemen for years ago, Pakistan refused. So what does Saudi really expect from Pakistan if actual conflict comes to the fore?
Well, I think, I'll go back for a couple of minutes. I don't know why the Western media is always thinking about a larger Saudi-Iranian conflict and the use of nuclear weapons and the dependency on America and the genocidal state of Israel. I don't think so. For us, and I'll be very frank, and for everybody in the Arab world, our main concern, our main threat is not Iran. Let me be very frank. There are issues with Iran, the Houthi issue, there were others, but there has been regression on the part of the Iranians. Relationships are better, embassies have opened up. So every time we get this, what about Iran? I'm sorry. My main concern and the concern of everyone is the madness that's happening in Israel, the attacks, the 100,000 people killed. that is a matter of concern for the Saudis. I do not fear Iran will attack. Yes, there have been proxy wars, and I don't need to go into that, whether it was Iraq or Syria or Yemen. But for the Saudis, the chance is to streamline their defense mechanism with a country that is friendly with them. And Pakistan was the nearest to that, taking that role.
Okay. Interestingly, though, of course, if Saudi finds itself in a position to enforce this agreement with Pakistan against the state of Israel, it will also, of course, be acting against the United States, with whom Saudi has had traditionally very strong relations. I mean, some question the foundation of it, but still, where would that leave, again, Saudi with the U.S. if this were enacted to attack Israel?
Well, the Saudis are not going to attack Israel right now.
Retaliate against Israel in defense.
Well, if the Israelis, God forbid, go further in their madness and attack Saudi Arabia, I think the Saudis have every right to use every available means to do that. And I'm not talking about nuclear, but they will not do it because it will incur the wrath of all the countries around. Right now, the Israelis are going ahead because they got free loads of supplies and weapons of all kinds of destruction. But I don't think so. The Saudi foreign policy has been very steady, even when you have seen the attacks, the behind-the-scene diplomacy, the talks with the Americans, the White House, the Pentagon, on how to curtail their support. So Saudi policy, I think, is a very much behind-the-scene policy and has been effective so far.
Okay.
Now, if Israel attacks, then I don't know, hell will break loose.
Okay. Tim, final question for you then. I mean, overall, how likely is it that this pact will ever be enacted? I mean, things, as Khaled just said, things would have to go terribly wrong. So give us some scenarios, if you can.
No, I think Khaled is absolutely right. I mean, Israel is not going to attack Saudi Arabia. In fact, the great aim of both Israel and the United States is to try and bring Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accords. Now, that's not going to happen anytime soon, the way Israel is behaving. But of course, Israel and Saudi Arabia and UAE all share a huge dislike for Hamas and for the Muslim Brotherhood. So they have those things in common. So that part is not going to happen. Your contributor from Pakistan makes a good point, which is in the early days of the clash with India, and I'm particularly thinking of the 7th and 8th of May, Pakistan did actually extremely well. And its Air Force, I think, outperformed the Indian Air Force. But on the 10th of May, everything changed with those 11 missiles being launched at Pakistani air bases. And that was a very, very fundamental change in the way that India-Pakistan relations have been conducted over the last at least 10 years. And this really, I think the urgency of this pact is that it gives Pakistan a breathing space in which it tries to work out what it would do if India played the same cards again. So I think in many ways, this whole thing is never going to be enacted, but it sort of, in Pakistan's eyes, it buys a little bit of deterrence. And in Saudi Arabia's eyes, it's sort of vaguely helpful against both Iran and Israel. Of course, the other thing it does is going to bring Pakistan to the attention of the Israelis, which I think is something that, you know, Pakistan probably won't relish over the medium to long term.
Okay, very quickly, Tim, as far as Washington and Saudi are concerned, though, do you think, you know, Washington should feel sidelined here? Or for Trump in particular, is this a welcome agreement because it means less U.S. involvement in the region, which is what he had wanted to do in the first place?
No, I don't think Trump will give much attention to this. I think he really, really wants a closer relationship with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and that's his ultimate aim, I think. And also, as I say, to bring Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accords. Well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So no, I don't think Washington is going to be worrying about this treaty at all.
Okay. Tim, that will have to be the final word for this edition of the Newsmakers. I'd like to thank all three of my panelists sincerely so much for joining us. and our viewers for being with us as well. Remember, you can follow us on social media, and do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey. We'll see you next time.